In Exodus 28, verse 21, we are told, the stone shall be engraved according to the names of the sons of Israel. 12 according to their names. They shall be like the engravings of a signet, each according to his name for the 12 tribes. Each tribe had its own stone. Each Israelite tribe had its own precious stone. As we said, no one is really certain as to which stone belonged to which tribe, but on some things we can be fairly sure. On some of the identifications and equations, we can be reasonably sure, and others less so. So that is the way it goes. Midrash Rabbah, each tribe, in addition to its precious stone, it also had its symbols and its standard, and usually the colour of the standard was the same as the colour of the stone. Let us go through the stones again and learn a little bit about the symbols of each tribe and the colourings. Reuben, as we said, had the autumn stone, probably the ruby. His flag was red, and on this flag were depicted Davidiy. Davidiy, a type of plant, possibly with aphrodisiac qualities. Some say that it was above the Davidiy, the plant, picture of the Davidiy, the plant, and the picture of a man on his standard. Another explanation is that the Davidiy, or this particular plant, similar to ginseng, and some versions of it, it looks like a man. So it wasn't that they had a picture of a man and a plant. They had the picture of a particular plant, the Davidiy, that was shaped like in the shape of a man. That was the standard of Reuben. Ruby is a nickname for Reuben, and the ruby was the precious stone of Reuben. Simeon had the pictus stone, the emerald. It was green in colour. We find descendants of Simeon to have been scattered amongst the other tribes, but in large groups. And Simeon at some stage seems to have been had a significant input into the people of Ireland, and also possibly of Wales. And both Ireland and Wales, the green colour is prominent, has national significance, especially in Ireland. We had the Bareket flashing stone, and his colour, his flag was 1/3 white, 1/3 red, 1/3 black. On the second row, Judah had the Norfolk stone, possibly a sky blue garnet. Sky blue was the colour of Judah, of Yehuda. It depicted a lion on his, a lion was depicted on his standard, and we find an input of Judah also in the British Isles, and on the coat of arms of Britain we have a lion and a unicorn. Issachar had the sapphire stone, type of sapphire, very dark type, black, almost blackish, type blackish blue type of sapphire, type of a darkish, very dark, deep blue black type of color. And this was also the color of his standard. On his standard there was also depicted the stars and the sun and the moon, because Issachar was prominent in learning, in studying, and also in computing the times, in mathematical equations, and astronomical studies. Issachar today to have become prominent amongst the Swiss, and also amongst the people of Finland. Zebulun had the Yahalom, the diamond. His flag was whitish, like a diamond is whitish, and a ship was depicted on it. We identified Zebulun with the people of Holland, the people of the Netherlands, and traditionally a ship was one of their national symbols. Also the diamond. The diamond has been important in their history. Amsterdam for quite a while was the world centre for trade in diamonds, also for the processing of diamonds, cutting them and polishing them and so on. It's important in the history of Amsterdam, of Holland, also in Belgium, where we also find an input from the people of Zebulun. Diamonds are and were important. In row 3 we had Dan. Dan had the Leshem stone. We identify Leshem with a type of amber, possibly a Baltic type, a yellow, more yellow than orange type of amber. On the standard, Dan had a snake, was depicted by a serpent. Descendants of Dan became prominent amongst the Vikings. The Vikings, when they set out to sail, they would place a serpent on the prow, a wooden carving of a serpent on the prow of their ship was important to them. Another symbol of Dan was an eagle. And still another symbol was a griffon, which is an animal, a fantastical animal that is an animal that never existed, but which they used in symbolism, which was a type of combination of a lion and of an eagle. And this griffon was also used by the ancient Hyksos, rulers of Egypt, who we believe to have been Hebrews. But before the Hebrews were subjugated in Egypt, they ruled over the country, or they were so closely associated with the native Egyptian rulers of the land, that in the eyes of later historians, they were equated with them. And the tribes of Simeon and Dan were apparently quite prominent amongst the Hyksos peoples. And a griffin, that is a combination of an eagle and a lion, was one of their symbols. Naphtali had the Shevel stone, was a type of greyish, slightly blue colour. Actually, can be quite attractive. Was similar to an agate. Naphtali was depicted as a hind, a female deer. As it says, Naphtali is a hind let loose. He gives forth goodly words. He had the gift of eloquence. Then we had Gad. Gad had the Aklama stone, which was mauvish, pinkish. On the standard there was an encampment, because God was associated with the encampment and gathering around, groups of people gathering around. This was to be important amongst the descendants of God, as we also find amongst the Swedes who are descended from God. We find this same national characteristic today. Issachar had the Tarshish stone, sea green colour, possibly a type of apatite. And on the standard of Issachar, there was depicted an olive tree. Olive oil was very important with the tribe of Ashur. The Shoham stone of Joseph, was a black colour, possibly an onyx. Not only was the stone of Joseph on the breastplate, the Shoham stone, the black stone, but also there were Shoham stones on the shoulders of the high priest, and there were clasps. The breastplate was linked to the shoulders of the high priest through clasps going up to the shoulders, where there were 2 Shoham stones. Six on each shoulder, on each soldier, on each shoulder were engraved the names of Israelite tribes, 6 tribes on each shoulder. And they were linked to the breastplate and the Base Israel, Rabbi Alta Megur, who we have spoken of several times, from whom we benefit to numerous insights concerning the 10 tribes. He said that the Shoham stone belonging to Joseph was also on the shoulders to symbolize that the other tribes were supported by Joseph, that the benefits that they received through their blessings were by virtue of Joseph. So it is worth remembering. The colour of the flag of the standard of Joseph was black. It had actually 3 standards. The tribe of Joseph had 3 standards. They had one for Joseph that included Ephraim and Manasseh together, and it was a black standard with a picture representing Egypt on it. We understand this to have been a picture of a pyramid on the black standard of Joseph representing Egypt, and this was the standard used by Ephraim and Manasseh when they came together. Apart from that, each had his own standard. On the standard of Ephraim was a bull. Concerning Joseph, his glory is the firstling of a bull. And Joshua, who led the Israelites when they came into the land of Canaan and conquered it, he was also from the tribe of Ephraim. He led the Israelites at that time. And the flag of Manasseh was depicted Ephraim, that is a unicorn. As it says, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns, or the horns of a unicorn. You see, his horns are like the horn of a unicorn. In the Hebrew, you see that the ram, it usually had 2 horns. It was a type of wild bull. It's here described or written up as if it had only 1 horn. And look, in our literature we explain this from the Hebrew, and this is of interest. It identifies the unicorn as a 1-horned beast, and the unicorn traditionally has been the symbol of Britain, the lion and the unicorn, and especially of Scotland. The Scottish coat of arms had 2 unicorns. We find Manasseh to have been prominent in Scotland, at least at an earlier time, before the great migrations from Britain to North America. Benjamin had the jasper stone, that is the jasper stone. Its colouring was like the colours of a unicorn. Its colouring was like the colour of the rainbow, numerous colours, possibly a type of jasper stone. You get jasper stones like that, and even the very name in Hebrew, Jasper, is similar to jasper, indicating that that is the correct identification for that stone. The standard of Benjamin also had a rainbow, all the colours of the rainbow, and there was also depicted a wolf upon this standard. It says that Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. See Genesis 49:27. So that is so those are the standards, those are the colourings, those are the precious gems of the tribes, as far as we can tell, and indications are that in most cases, at least, possibly in all of them, we are correct on this matter. Thank you. May the Lord God of Israel bless you.